All right, guys, here's a couple methods of getting the information into our final. First is the modified grid method. So a suggestion I have for those of you that might find it somewhat difficult to draw by freehand from looking at the reference on your device is try the grid method. And what I did with all the references in the folders is I went in and I put a grid on all of them, right? It splits it into quadrants and then it splits it diagonally. So you get these 8 areas of information that is what you need to then concentrate on. So what you can do for that is after you trace the rectangle, all right, take your ruler and line it up. Now remember, this is 8.5 inches wide. So when I line this up here on my ruler, I can see that the edge of my rectangle stops there at 8.5. So what I need to do is I need to find the center of 8.5, which is 4 1/4, right here. So if I'm looking at the ruler, 4 and then 1/4. Here's 4.5. Halfway between 4.5 and 4 is 1/4. So I'll make a little tick mark right there, a little hash mark. Okay. Now I need to do the same thing down the bottom. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see where that hash mark is. Okay. See, there's 4 1/4. I'm going to slide the ruler down to the bottom. Need to make sure that the left-hand side of the ruler is lined up with the left-hand side of the rectangle. And I want to find 4 1/4 again, which is right there, and make a little hash mark. Okay, try to keep these hash marks light. Now, we said that this is 4 inches, so half of 4 is 2. So I put a little hash mark at 2, slide it to the bottom, because I always need to measure from the same side. All right, and I can see that that's also 4 inches. Put a little hash mark at 2. Now I want to lightly draw a grid line. Now when you draw your grid lines, you have to make sure that the hash marks line up on the top edge of the ruler. So you need to have this line to be really, really light. Okay, see I'm holding my pencil again at the back, and I'm lining up those hash marks along the edge of the ruler, and it gives me a really, really light pencil line. I'm going to do the same thing horizontally going this way. Again, light pencil line, because you don't want this to be visible later on after you do your colored pencil. Now the last two, as you can see on the sample, are going to go from the corners. All right, so now that we've got our grid set up, you can see I have the image with the grid on it. I can see the red lines. This is going to give me a really easy way to try to get the simple shapes inside those areas. So if I bring my image here and I work just in this triangular box right here, I can see what's in this triangular box if I look closely. Starting about here down to here, I can see this part of the face of the dog. So if I look at that, and if I have these both set up, right, this half is this bottom half, I got this line that just starts about here, and I can see I'm just holding my pencil. It's the same size. So I just look at where that line is, and I lightly draw that line in. So I'm drawing that line down, and I can see this part of the face comes up to about here. So I can put a little mark there, and then I can draw the light contour of the side of the dog's snout up to there. And I can see the nose comes just inside here. And I can see where it is in relationship to that line there. And I will draw the line up. Just about hits and then comes down. I just restated that. This I noticed was over too far. So I just went back and instead of erasing the whole thing, I just went back and restated where the more accurate line of the dog's nose needed to be. So this right here now, this just becomes, see where that line is here? I just kind of took my pencil And just brought that across this way, and now I'm a little bit more accurate with where the side of the nose is. It's right here. That gives me the space now to redraw the top part of this in that snout. So I've got this shape right here coming down. Now, if I look at the eye, all right, since we can see where the eye is on this, let's zoom in here real quick. Not that far. All right. Now, the eye is just about at the top of this line here and just comes inside the diagonal into this section of that triangle. So if I look at where the corner of the eye is, I always suggest starting with that shape, right? Look at that true shape. It's a circle. So if I look at where it starts and stops, here's the corner of the eye, right? If I bring my pencil down, I can see here's the corner of the eye, little dot there. Here's the furthest most point of the eye up here in this section. And then I've got this circle. The top of the circle almost hits this line. So that's going to be like right about here. The bottom of the circle, all right, since the eyes are on an angle this way, okay, that means that the eyes are going to be on an angle when I bring my pencil down into the drawing. But this is still a circle. And I can see that the bottom of that comes to about here. Here's where the top of it is. The left side of that circle is about here. And the right side of that circle is about here. So now if I just go in lightly and establish the basic sphere right there for the eye, now I've got these points as to where the upper eyelid's going to need to go and how much of it. You can see some of the eyelid covers. You don't see the full circle, like the dog's eyes aren't wide open. And it creates that dark shape. Comes down to here and then comes up and over. All right, so I'm dealing with this contour outline of that dark shape. The other thing you really want to make sure you do is find those highlights. Okay, so where the highlights are, I want to just kind of come in and put those in, because that's what gives the eyes the life when you go and look at them. That reflective, the wetness of the eye, the reflectiveness of the eyeball. And that gives me the line drawing part. Later, now I would go back before I start with the colored pencil, especially over any areas that's light. If I have light color, light color, light color, light color, light color, I'm going to want to carefully erase my grid lines so that they don't show through in the final. If you have dark pencil lines, they could show through in your final when you add color. And in some cases, you'll see in the demo for the coloring on my final, I actually used the pencils as a way to shade some of the colored pencil. All right, time lapse will follow in the next video. All right, now with my line drawing, I've got my printed image, or I could have my iPad or my laptop open in front of me. And this is approximately similar size to what my compositional area is, okay? So if I look at these parts and I say, how am I gonna draw this in here as a light drawing? I want you to look for the contours. Now, there's a lot of contours in here with the individual textures of the bird's feathers. So I'm not going to worry so much about all of that stuff right now, but what I do want to look for are true shapes, okay? I can see I've got a really strong true shape of a curve right here as it goes above the eye. I can see that I've got a very, very strong circular shape in there with a little bit of a point there. I've got a very large area of white shape, and I've got this yellow shape here, and I've kind of got this green shape that kind of transitions into the blue of the feathers. So that's what I'm going to look for as I start in on my composition in the rectangle here. So if I have my reference right above it, and I start working on where's the placement of these things, right? Remember how we make light pencil lines. All right, I'm holding my pencil back here in the 1 value area. And I can see if I use some light blocking lines, some contour blocking lines to follow the contour of this, right? Of this, I'm using my basic blocking techniques. You know, where's this line and this line in relationship to this part of my drawing? So if I start in with the big shape, all right, I've got this big shape right here, So I'm gonna, see if you can see it all right? I'm gonna put in this area right here. Here's my eyeball, and it's about, right, see what I'm doing? I'm measuring how far down, how far up. So it's right about here, just below the midpoint, right? If this is the middle of this photo, the eye is just below the middle of the photo. So if this is the middle of the photo right here, I can see I've got a circle that I'm going to draw nice and light right in there. Okay, now I've got this shape coming up over the eye, and it's about this far above the eye. So if I curve that, again, see where I'm holding my pencil? I'm holding it all the way back down here to create this light contour line, and that kind of comes up into the feathers. Now over here, we've got this area of light yellow shape, and it kind of goes like that. All right, so you see I kind of made the contour of the feathers right there. See, I kind of made the contour of the feathers nice and light. You see how I'm making it very, very broken? Right, that's a very broken shape, right? Because it's a bunch of individual feathers. So I'm just using my pencil similarly to the shapes created. And that kind of picks up where I have this edge of the yellow shape coming in here. Right, there's that dark shape. There's this dark shape. Kind of comes off there. So I'm not putting all of these little textural lines in right now. I'm just giving myself the edge of separation between the black shape and the shape behind it. All right, so I finished my line drawing, and you can see within the line drawing there's just a lot of looseness with the stylized look of the feathers here. So I didn't go in and I didn't try to draw every one of these little areas of line. That I'm going to do with the colored pencil. Once I figure out these colors and once I get a nice sharp black colored pencil or dark blue that I could work into those areas, you know, throughout the image. But what I do want to do now is photograph this so I can turn this in. So I'm going to just finish up putting on those little things around the eyes there.